What's up, everybody? Zach Shelley here with Management Unfiltered. I'm your host today. Kirk Teachout is actually out of town, so filming a solo episode, and I'm super excited to just get on and chat with you guys again. I hope you guys have been enjoying the podcast. Kirk and I have been looking for original content, things that nobody talks about, or diving into the hard subjects that people kind of tend to shy away from. But today, I want to just kind of spend a little bit of time just talking about being office managers and how to communicate with your doctor and how to gain headway with them. We've talked about in the group saying, hey, what would you guys like to see? And we had some great comments. So I'm starting to try to drop those in. And Kirk and I have an active list of what we are trying to record on because we want to, record on what you guys love to hear. And so that's what we're doing today. Is we're just going to be talking about being OMs and how to gain headway with your doctor and manager relationship, how to engage with your team, how to organize your time effectively. There's so many different things that we struggle with. And then also they asked to dive into the quote, conversation is not confrontation, which is one of my favorite principles that I've kind of come up with recently. Just talking about, it doesn't have to be an argument. So we're going to head into this conversation with, the first part of this, which is gaining headway with your doctor/manager relationship. So a little backstory. I have only been in practice management as far as clinical practice management for the last 5 years. Before that, I was a dental tech and I managed a dental lab. That dynamic's completely different when you talk about like being a dental lab and working with a dental practice and being an office manager of that, because you're just managing other dental technicians, but you're also communicating with the doctors a ton, which is super interesting because you're on the other end. And I always make the joke like lab techs are always wrong. So, we just walk in knowing it's our fault if there's something going on. And that's just kind of the going joke because I really like to crack it now, especially because I used to be a lab tech. So, anytime we'd have a case that was like not going well, in the practice right now, I'm like, it's the lab's fault. And all the girls would laugh because they're like, I love that you put the fault at the lab, just kind of as a joke. But I got to see kind of the relationship of how the doctors worked with the patients, worked with their team, and kind of gave me a whole different perspective versus like what we only see on the clinical side. So it kind of opened my eyes of like being able to approach practice management in a little bit different manner than most people just because I was on the other end of it. I think one of the biggest things that we need to look at, like gaining headway with your doctor or the manager and vice versa, is like, how are we approaching this relationship? And one of the things I first say that we should do is doc and OM need to sit down and they need to set expectations for each other. A lot of times I ask people, I'm like, do you instruct your doctors on what you need from them? Do you have them do things for you? Because the owner doc, if you're there practicing and you have an office manager, there's kind of two roles here that we need to understand. The first is you are the owner of the practice doc and you have an office manager that works for you. In the other side of it, you're an employee of the company and the manager needs to be able to manage you also because you're part of the team. So it's kind of like this dual purpose, and it's kind of a tough kind of area to be in, right? Because not all office managers are confident and say, hey, doc, like I do need to also be your boss at the same time. But this is something that we need to really embrace in order to be successful. And that's one thing that we've done here in the practice is, from day one, it was like I came in as the first ever office manager of this practice. And the owner doc was like, I don't know what your job's really going to look like because I've been the office manager this entire time. And I was like, okay. So we kind of came up a list of everything that he wanted me to do and start on. And then we just kind of had this agreement of like, hey, this position's going to evolve over time. I just don't know exactly what it's going to evolve into, but I need your help in figuring out what that's going to look like. And so over time, what we would do is every single day we would meet at lunch. And not everybody can do this, but what I think the biggest and best thing to have that building of relationship is a constant contact and conversation with your office manager and with your doc. If we're only spending once a week, it's really not there's too much time. There's too many things that happen in a day, especially with a larger team. Like we have 38 people on our team and we have 5 doctors. So there's so many moving parts that daily we're talking about things. We're like, hey, we need to work on this. We need to work on this. Where are we at on this project? How are we with credentialing? Where are we at with it? Where are we with billing? All these things. And we're able to attack these things every single day and kind of have a pin on everything rather than waiting a week and be like, oh, I forgot about that. And we just lost a whole week on what we're trying to work on. And what that's been able to do and build is like, we have this expectation that we're going to be talking about it every single day. So it's not a surprise that we're working on different, projects or we're needing updates rather than saying, hey, something's going wrong. Now we need to talk. I always talk about the check in, not check on with a team. And it's kind of the same thing with a doc. Like you need to be in there like as much as possible. If there's something you need in between patients and they're not busy, like, hey, I'm checking in with you real quick. I just want to let you know I'm working on this, and this. And it's one of those things that when you do get to lunch, now you have freed up your time because you discuss these quick little things that, doc might want an update on, but you're not eating up that valuable hour that you have for lunch to dive into the deeper things. So over the last 5 years, like we've grown significantly and it's been, amazing. And a lot of different things have played into that growth. But I think one of the bigger things from the initial growth is having the O&M doc on the same page. And it definitely takes time. Like you have to be vulnerable. And we've read many books. And like one of the best ones that we read, like right when I came on board was Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. And, she has this principle that talks about clear as kind. And I've said it in the podcast all the time. I say it to Kirk and, when we're chatting about things is like, when you're clear, you're being kind to each other because you're setting clear expectations. But when you're unclear, it's unkind. It's not friendly because you're not able to have a conversation with them without the standard expectations that are laid on the table. So we have to be super, super clear. I feel like I could talk for hours and hours about gaining headway with the doctor-manager relationship, but what I really want right now is you guys to start with that. Consistent time and meetings with your doc and set expectations and then set weekly goals. Once you knock one or two of those things off your goal sheet, you're going to start like getting super pumped because you're like, dang, we're actually making headway now. I want to knock this off now. And then you're just going to keep going and going and going. So let's start with that. And now let's move into engaging with your team. For me, I feel like this is super simple. I think a lot of times in dentistry and business period, we overthink everything. We overanalyze. It's like we've turned into these engineers that are like over engineering every system in our practice when it doesn't need to be that way. So engaging with your team, I have my lead principle that I've put in my Facebook group and it's learn everything you can and give your team your best. And it's one of those things we learn all these things, but like we don't carry those over to our team and train them and teach them. And I think that's so important. And this is a way to engage with your team. You get back from a show, you get back from a conference, or you learn something online. You go out to your team and say, hey, I just learned this. It's actually super amazing to make your job easier. Like your team's going to love you. The other thing is encourage. E. So we got L, which is learn. E is encourage. You need to find ways, especially with the check-in, check-on principle, like encourage your team. If you see something that they're doing well, call it out and call it out right away. Don't wait for a review. Don't wait, until, you have time that's convenient for you. If you see it, say it. Your team is going to respect you so much more and follow you more if you're like, hey, I just saw what you did. That was amazing. I love seeing that. Keep it up. The next part of it is ask. And a lot of people are like, well, what do we ask? Well, we ask our team what we can do for them. Being an office manager, in my opinion, is more of a servant-led role. Like you are there so that your team is successful. Like I tell everybody, our practice isn't successful just because Shelley is the office manager. Our team is successful because we work together. But I unlock this area of encouragement and asking our team, what can I do for you? Do you have everything to do your job well? And when we start asking the correct questions, it starts unlocking all this potential that's just like mind-boggling that we didn't even know our team was capable of, but we've been holding them back because we haven't asked them the right questions on like what they need to do or how they need to do it. And I'm like, man, we're shooting ourselves in the foot because we're coming up with all these other game plans and like trying to build all these systems, but we haven't even gotten the basics down. And the last one, and I think this is the biggest thing, is engaging with your team. D, it's deliver. And it's doing what you say you're going to do, following through. If you don't, the first time you don't do that, your team is going to lose massive trust in you. You have to do what you say you're going to do and deliver for your team. If you don't, I always have this caveat on there because we can't be perfect. If you don't, you need to own it right away before they see it or know it and say, hey, I messed up. Because the way we handle things is how it's going to determine the future of our success. We always talk about mistakes. I was talking about with my children today. Like my one boy, we were going to our friend's house and I said, hey, bring the dogs in, put the dogs in their crates. We're getting ready to go. We're walking out the door and I said, hey, did you put Duke in his crate? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, lock the door. We get in and we're halfway to our friend's house that they live like 40 minutes away. And my wife was like, hey, you put the dogs up, right? And he was like, no, I forgot. And I was like, dude, you told me that you did it. And he's like, I thought you meant like lock the doors. And I was like, no, you misunderstood. And he was apologizing over and over and over. The apologies, yes, it's acknowledgement of what we've done wrong. But I told him, I was like, hey, it's what we do from here on out. How do we fix this? And how do we move forward with it? And that's what we need to do with our team. We make a mistake, or if our team makes a mistake. There's different levels. And I think a lot of times we're super hard on certain mistakes and we're like, I want my team perfect with this. But it's like you have to have some grace. You have to be able to come on their level and be like, hey, I understand you messed up. And it was a big mistake and it's unacceptable. But let's talk about this. How do we move forward from this? And really like where's your mindset in this and making this happen? Give them an opportunity not to make an excuse, but to talk to you about it. And that's where we're like coming into like dive into the conversation is not confrontation. Anytime in this world we disagree with somebody, people feel like it's confrontation. And let's determine what confrontation is. Like in my opinion, if we're confronting something, you're hitting it head on. So the word confrontation is so skewed in so many aspects where even confrontation isn't bad. But that's why I came up with like conversation isn't confrontation. Like even though you're hitting it on the head, like you're able to come to someone, ask once again the right question and say, hey, I need some information because I'm not understanding well. If your team broke some equipment and they're careless with it, like instead of just saying, hey, you're terrible, like why did you do that? Why don't you come to them and say, hey, you broke this machine. You told me you broke it. You did what I asked you not to do. Like, can you explain to me like what were you thinking when that happened? And say, I'm upset, but I'm not mad at you. Maybe you are mad at them, but soften it so they'll open up and have a conversation with you. Once again, our team's not going to be perfect, but if you want them darn near close, it's the way you figure out how to communicate with them in a manner that makes them want to open up to you. Like, I can tell you time and time and time again, I've had team members come in and they're like, the last job would have just fired me and not even have a conversation with me. And I'm like, but why? Why do you not deserve to have this conversation, figure out what's going on and see how we can move forward? And there may be times, I'm not saying that, just let's let our team do whatever they want and then, have a conversation with them and then just let them keep screwing up. But it's how do we move forward from these mistakes? How do we have the conversations with our team members and how do we elevate them to get better? I mean, there's been instances where I talked to my team and they're like, I didn't realize how important that was. And like, I know you said it, but I didn't think it was a big deal. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I didn't set the expectations correctly for you. So now I'm going to take the time and I'm going to tell you that's unacceptable and it never can happen again because the conversation we have next time will be different than this one today. But I want to give you a fair shot because you're telling me you didn't understand the expectations. So I'm going to set them here with you now and I'm going to make sure that you understand them. And then we're going to move forward from this point and I want to see your performance change. I don't know very many people that would hear that and be like, you suck, I'm still quitting, or yeah, he let me off with it. Like 95% of the people I deal with that I do that, they're like, thank you so much for just hearing me and not getting defensive or upset. The other thing is when we're having a conversation with a team member, you can be forward about how you have this conversation. There's a lot of times I call people into my office like, I need to see you in my office. And they choke up. They're like, oh, I'm getting fired. And so I sit them down. I'm like, why do you think you're getting fired? They're like, I don't know. I was like, did you do something that, should get you fired? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, so why is your mindset instantly, I'm getting fired? And they're like, well, I got called into your office. And I'm like, how many times do I talk to you a day? They're like, a lot, but I'm talking to you in your office now. I'm like, but that shouldn't change. And so I do that with team members, especially when they first come on, because I want them to understand I'm on their team. Yes, I'm their boss, but I'm also a team member, and I'm here to make you as good as you possibly can be by giving you the tools that you need to grow. Like, don't come in here, you know, crunching up. Like, I'm coming in here because I need to ask you about a PTO request, but I didn't want to ask in front of everybody. And like, oh, that's it. And I'm like, see, we're making assumptions of what we think is going to happen when there's really nothing that's happening. So we need to make sure that we get our team members setting with the expectations. So it's, once again, we're going back, like, if you're seeing the layers of this, when we're talking about gaining headway with our doctors, with the doctor and manager, relationship, it starts with expectations, engaging with your team, setting expectations. The other thing is like, I'm going to bounce back to the engaging with your team. There's this big thing, like we always say, like, don't mix business with pleasure, and you can't be friends with your team members because it's going to interfere with how we work and blah 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 blah. Okay, I agree to a certain extent, but at the same time, like, a lot of people hear that and then they're like, I can't be friends with you, so I'm not even going to be nice to you. I'm going to just only be your boss, and I just have to be like super hard with you. And I'm like, that's wrong. I'm like, guys, you have to learn to balance that. And you have to learn how to be genuine and authentic with your team. And that's something I've been pushing really hard this year, and I'm going to be speaking on a lot next year, is like, how do you come to your team wholeheartedly and like say, hey, I truly care about you. And not in a weird way and not in a creepy way, but like coming to them and remembering the things. I always make the example of, like, when you have a patient come in for hygiene, and with my hygiene team, I say, take notes. If they have a dog that they just got and they're like super excited about it, write that in your notes. So next time they come in, you can ask them about it. Or if they're just getting ready to go on a cruise, or their kids starting college, or whatever it may be, something that they've shared with you that's important, write it down. And then when you have them come back in 6 months, you remember it. They're like, oh my gosh, you care so much. And I'm like, it's a great tool because it makes us seem like we're really good at remembering everything. And it's not that we're not, and it's not that we don't care. The intentionality happened when we wrote our note. So when they come back in 6 months later, there's no effort in having to remember that because it's written. And it's kind of the same mindset with our team. Is, I'm not saying write notes down of everything they say, but the hard thing for us as leaders is to be an active listener. And docs, this is one I would really encourage you to really, can't talk, wholeheartedly, like, think about, is when your team members share something they're excited about, really listen and just be a great listener, because we're really not good at listening all the time. Like, just people in general, like, everything's so fast. So it's like, really listen to what they're saying. Take that mental note. And if you need to write it down, write it down. Like, if they say, hey, I'm going to a concert this weekend, I'm super excited. Okay. Take a mental note of that and then ask them on Monday, hey, how was the concert? Take a little bit of that intentionality and then vocalize it back to your team. The amount of just like culture building that you're going to do there is like unmeasurable. And it's something that you cannot recreate any other way other than like truly caring, like taking the time out and doing it with every one of your team members. It's not easy. You don't have to do it every single day, but if you start making these small, like, pinpoints of engagement with your team, just like you do with your patients in the practice, dude, you are going to see your team flourish in a way that you've never seen before. Cause they're like, man, he actually cares about me. Like, we always talk about, like, how do we incentivize our team and give our teams bonuses? But like, if we treat them like crap, they're never going to want to grow your practice for you. Like, there's just this stigma behind that. And they're like, well, I'm going to be here and I'm going to work and make good money, but like, I'm not going to go above and beyond. But if like you build this sense of culture and engage with your team in that aspect and like really listen and really hear, and this goes for the office manager too, share it with the owners and say, hey, so-and-so is going on vacation this week and they're going to Greece. It's a once in a lifetime trip their family's always wanted to take. And then when they get back, like, hey, how was your trip? Tell me your 3 most favorite things that you did on that trip. Why was that so important to you? Or like, talk to your team and say, hey, is this what you want to do for the rest of your career? I don't think we ask our team members that enough. I don't think we ask them like those deep questions because we're like, well, I don't want to open their minds to like doing another job. But it's like, why can't we be a part of them being successful and like them growing? And in turn, you're going to see so many people want to come into your practice and work for you because they've seen all these great outcomes of team members that are working with you for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And you know what? One of them leaves and does something greater. How awesome is that to be a part of that? So before we hop off, I just want to hit those points again of just like set clean, clear expectations all the way down the board, whether it's gaining, that relationship with the doctor or manager, engaging with your teams. And then one last point I didn't talk about was how do you organize your time effectively? And I'm going to brush on this for a few minutes. The best way I've learned how to organize my time is saying no. And let me elaborate on this a little bit because it's not just like tell your team no to everything. But I learned this in a mastermind with Laura Nelson, and it was so valuable. And she told me at one point, she's like, this is not sustainable. You have to learn to manage this because you have so many people coming to you. That I learned to say, hey, right now is not a good time. I'm working on this and I need all my attention on this. Can we schedule a time to talk about this? And then what our team members hear is like, oh, he's not brushing me off that he doesn't care. He's telling me let's schedule a time to do it. But you're giving them some information. You're not diving into everything, but you're telling them enough of like, hey, we can't talk right now because I'm busy on something that's super important and it needs all my time. Scheduling your time out with your team will make your world so much easier. I'm not saying it gets rid of all of your problems, but you have to learn to, with your team, to communicate well. And this is one of those things where it comes into clearest kind. And, you can see all these like principles are kind of molding together into one, which is setting clear expectations, being clear and being kind, using the lead principle, and then conversations, not confrontation, which also goes right back into setting expectations with your team. And then the other thing is I learn to write lists. Keep good lists. I'm really good at writing a lot of lists. And then I have like 40 different lists. And I'm like, well, this one has both of these on it. And then, I'm like disorganized. And then once again, I'm spending more time. So what I've learned is get a tool that you can use to write your list down, whether it's a notepad or a digital writing pad. I love Remarkable. It's a great one to use. But use whatever tool you have. Use the same tool for all of it. Write your tasks down. But then when you complete them, mark them out. And that will also help you learn like, oh, I'm not drowning because I've gotten these things done. But I think the biggest thing to learn with learning to manage your time effectively is learning to tell your team no and learning how to have those conversations to schedule them correctly. I was really good at that for a long time. And even now, with my group and things, I'm like, learning to schedule things in order to make sure I have time to do it well rather than halfway. The other way you can save a ton of time is when you delegate effectively to your team on the things that you don't need to be doing anymore. There's a lot of things that are like, well, I love to do this. And it's like, no, train your team to do it and get them to do it better than you did. And then you just audit it. And you will have a life-changing experience as an OM when you delegate correctly. Guys, this has been a ton of fun to record solo. I appreciate you guys hopping in and listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the episodes, comment on the episodes. Let us know what you want to hear. Find me in Dental Office Manager Leadership Network, and let's get some conversations going about how we can help you better. We'll see you guys next time. Come on, give me some.